Hello and welcome. My name is Thomas Kevin Dolan. I am the author and the writer of Little Fag, a journey of self-acceptance and healing. And today I'm going to read the preface from my book. It begins on page 5. I had given little thought that by writing this memoir, I would come face to face with how unprepared I was for half the shit I went through in my life. Yet clearly, as circumstance after circumstance unfolded on each page, I began to realize I was built for it. This book chronicles, although not chronologically, the events that shaped me as one of the children that came through my parents. It is a testament that animates the wisdom I've discovered along the way. Within these pages, I share my pain of sexual abuse, my confusion with my sexuality, navigating a heteronormative world, my masquerade as a member of the Catholic Church, leaving my family of origin, reconnecting with a new generation of Dolans, learning how to walk with God, bravely charting my recovery course as an adult child of an alcoholic, sharing why I didn't kill myself, and finding courage at times when I thought I had none. Let me share where I find myself today, some context to help you bridge the device I use to jump back and forth in time. I'm 9 years plus into a marriage with a stunningly authentic, generously loving, and powerfully bright man. We're blessed to live half-time in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and half-time on the Hawaiian island of Oahu in the city of Honolulu. We acknowledge being guests of the indigenous of both countries whose land was stolen from them. I do work as a master integrative coach professional, a life coach, if you will. Maya Angelou, the legendary author, poet, activist, and all-round inspiring woman said, "My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style." I sense all this life animation that Angelou alludes to permeates my life. Although you'll read how my mother responded to my desire to live in Hawaii, shared by my first grade self, I'm grateful to have landed in a place where the once unimaginable is now my every moment experience. I'd claim the quality of endurance as a superpower for the trials and tribulations of how I was raised. Navigating the deep, dark, churned waters of an alcoholic father, the devastation it imparted on all my siblings, and watching the mastery of my mom as the enabler was brutal. Pepper all these dynamics with mental, physical, sexual, and psychological abuse, abject poverty, wanton abandonment, and suicide ideation, and it's a miracle I'm still standing. Having survived more than one dark night of the soul, I've come to realize it's possible to be healed in the dark. Those dark nights were the space between who I was and who I became. I learned to completely let go of my old self to embrace a more enlightened self. My gayness buoyed me. It supported my delivery to a healthy whole now. As Elizabeth Gilbert suggests, clearing out all your misery gets you out of the way. You cease being an obstacle, not only to yourself, but to anyone else. Only then are you free to serve and enjoy other people. I'll acknowledge my journey as an arduous one. I hadn't a clue it would take such tremendous amounts of introspection. My observation and examination of my own mental and emotional state and mental processes help to facilitate the act of looking within. Does it sound funny when I say I wouldn't change one moment of any of it? Would I have wanted it to be easier? Is there someone to blame to make it feel less hard? This one step at a time journey, I sense now, has been a setup all along. I've been destined to share my story, one that I've been frightened to walk through at times, paralyzed by, and yet hell-bent on telling. This is why I've lived through all of it. It was my destiny. As the lyric from Colton Dixon's All Through It convey, I've won and I have lost. I got it right sometimes, but sometimes I did not. Life's been a journey. I've seen joy. I've seen regret. Oh, and you have been my God all through it. Sharing this book might help others realize they're not alone. And aid perhaps in some form of salvation. This message cannot get any more personal. I walked the path. No, I cleared the path, like the first cross-country skier on the trail. My intention has always been to help set the stage for the real-life characters you will meet and the plot you'll be following. To provide as much information and interpretation of what I experienced in my lifetime, I dive a little deeper after each chapter. A technique I use in each chapter is simply to employ two sections, one called What I Braved and the other called The Unlearning. Both provide further insight into my journey and illuminate the path I've walked. Bravery is the greatest quality I leaned on as I walk through my life, sometimes without knowing it. The quirkiness of The Unlearning, not what I learned, relates to the ways that, as a member of the Dolan brood, I needed to let go of, unlearn if you will, to functionally make sense of mainstream life and more arduous maneuvering in a direction that works for me. Another technique I use is a bluntness to share my pain and discomfort. As a friend observed, you are unflinchingly honest. My candid sharing of my experiences cuts through some level of disconnection between myself and you as the reader. It helps us recognize we are not alone. Out of deep respect for my siblings, you'll notice I do not use their names. I do not have their permission. Dorothy, my mom, was the only family member who gave me permission to use her name. As a black sheep, okay, pink sheep, of this Dolan family, I became a self-healer. I broke numerous generational curses, fear, guilt, and shame. I started what is known as intergenerational healing by walking this path. I broke the chain of generational trauma. I sense I am fully supported by my ancestors. Carl Jung said, "Where your fear is, there your task is." This book is an examination of how a lot of my fear was laid bare and how within my journey I found the courage to keep taking another step forward. At one point, I thought this book would be part of my legacy, and then I discovered more of Maya Angelou's wisdom, which corrected that thought for me. She shared, "You have no idea what your legacy will be. Your legacy is what you do every day. Your legacy is every life you've touched, every person whose life you've either moved or not. It's every person you've harmed or helped. That's your legacy." This journey of writing has made me aware of two states that exist within me. One is the notion of course correcting my life. The other is about redirecting my life. Both were noble tasks, neither of which inferred my life was incorrect or directionless. I've adopted a humble attitude to support changes for the better, most notably holding a sincere desire to correct my deficiencies, even if I was not aware of what they were. I felt overwhelmed. I felt wonder and excitement as these words, forming my life story, flowed through me. How blessed am I to not only write about this life, but also to write my story the way I want. This book is a proud declaration that I'm no longer stuck. I'm learning, I'm growing, and I've tilled the soil so that I can bloom. There exists embedded in these pages a subtle nuance that took me by surprise. I believe by writing this memoir, I've transformed the old adage that we can only grow and heal when we're uncomfortable. I now see so clearly that I've healed every time I've had a good conversation with someone. My healing occurs while I laugh. The healing deepens when somebody elicits a genuine smile from me. When using my creative energy to make something, especially when it's fun, I heal. As I allow myself to be absorbed in something that lights me up, my struggles get put on hold. While inside my comfort zone there is, in fact, lots of healing and growth to be attained. I feel blessed in having discovered it. There is a magic amidst the mayhem on these pages, and I believe sharing my pain, discomfort, and healing to be an act of service. I trust my journey has value for others. There might be some healing of your own to be found here. I chose a quote by Hippocrates, and it is this: healing is a matter of time, but it is sometimes also a matter of opportunity. Let me quickly share how this one book, actually at one point in time was going to be quite thin, how this one book turned into, or I thought was one book, ended up being 3 books. I shared with you, what I braved and the unlearning in each one of the chapters. What I braved and the unlearning. I just had to remember the order there for a second. I thought the manuscript was done. I turned it in, was ready to go to 2 sets of beta readers. And every one of them, the first set there were 14 people that read the manuscript. The second there were 9. All of them told me I needed more. I needed to share more. I had no idea what that meant. And I sure as heck didn't want to write any more, to be honest with you. So I sat quiet and frustrated because I thought the book was finished. And I allowed the sense of what more might be to come to me without having a clue where it was going to come from. In meditation one morning, I began wondering what it was that I was taught. What did I learn as a Dolan? And a bunch of things burbled through my heart and my mind, and they weren't necessarily the positive things I learned. And then I thought to myself, wow, if I have all of those things as learnings, what did I do to make my way in the world without those? And suddenly this word came to me, unlearning. I had unlearned something. Hence is the birth of the unlearning. It just simply talks about what I had to undo to actually be able to move in the world without some of the really wacky things that Dolans had taught me. The second thing was this: what quality did I call on in my life to have made it to the points that I'd made it? Particularly to the point of being able to read through my life, to be able to write this book so that you could read it, but ultimately what was the quality? And what I landed on was bravery. What I braved came to me as a 3rd chapter in each one of the chapters that you're going to read. So the unlearning and what I braved, they follow the original chapter. So there was only 1 chapter to begin with. Now there are 3. So you really are ending up with kind of 3 books in one, if you will. So I thought I would share that with you.